I love zombie stories because even if they're bad, they're still fun to watch and they're still really fun to talk about. So let's talk about it. Hey movie watchers, welcome to today's review of the Netflix series Black Summer, starring Jamie King and several other small-time actors who I'm not really gonna list because I think few people would recognize them. If that bothers you, I'm sorry. If you're new to this channel, I'm gonna talk about my likes, my dislikes, and then give you the breakdown. All my reviews have spoilers in them, but I'm gonna go kinda easy on this one. Nevertheless, you have still been warned. Okay, movie watchers, let's review. So the show starts off with Jamie King's character and her family who's waiting for the right time to leave the house and kind of make a break for it or make a run for some military trucks that look like they're taking people away, probably to safety. So right off the bat, we know that we're in the middle of the infected zone and chaos is about to ensue. Chaos is right around the corner. Turns out her husband is injured and everyone freaks out and just disperses. Like in an attempt to hide or keep themselves safe, they all just scatter. And the story follows multiple people on their terrifying journey to the stadium where supposedly they're a safe harbor. However, as you can imagine, with zombies, nothing ever goes the way that it should. I really love zombies and zombie TV shows and just anything that's undead stories in general. Even if they're bad, they're still fun to talk about, and I still really enjoy watching them. I really like seeing what the writers come up with as far as establishing the how and what happens. And I really enjoy kind of breaking them down and dissecting those. So starting with my likes, like number one, the first thing I noticed I liked was kind of that first-person style cinematography. I have been a big fan of this since George Romero did it with Diary of the Dead back in 2007. It's been stuck with me ever since. This series is shot very similarly, and honestly, I just think it works very well in zombie movies. Again, that first-person style cinematography. I think they did it pretty well for the most part. Like number two, I'm going to give a little bit of credit to the acting here in this show. When you shoot a series like this with that first-person style camera work, you have to shoot these really long scenes and you have to cover quite a bit of area sometimes. So these actors, generally speaking, don't have all the same benefits that most movies, much like this review, have. See, I can just edit out any mistakes or pauses that I want to and just do a series of jump cuts, and it looks good. But in Black Summer, these actors mostly, not perfectly, not flawlessly by any means, but for the most part, they do a pretty good job. They do it fairly well. They all have to know and have every step of the scene. They have to have it down. They have to have it mapped out. They have to do it multiple times, and they have to get the whole scene right. And they also have to know where the camera is at all times as well. Even while sprinting down the street, running through houses, and everything else that it takes seems like a lot of work to me. So some credit, some kudos to the actors for doing all of this work. Like number three, I did kind of like how they told the story from an individual journey's perspective. You get to spend a little time with each character to see their story and how they got to where we are and maybe kind of relate to them in different ways. Now, it's more of the concept that I like rather than specifically liking that the way they did it in Black Summer, because in Black Summer, they do make some mistakes with this, which moves me on to my dislikes. Dislike number one, stories like these often have lazy writing, and if you watch my reviews, you know that I am not exactly a fan of lazy writing, and my brain can't not see it. I don't know how to not see bad writing. For example, Spears in the beginning, the way he gets free from the soldier, I thought was very stupid. Maybe because we've seen it 1,000 times already, or maybe just because it was poorly executed. I'm not really sure, but it wasn't very good. Also, the way Lance gets brought into the group, very silly. It's kind of just like, oh, hey, stranger, you're with us now. Let's go. And this other scene where Spears and Rose are completely saved by this completely random stranger who just happens to be in the exact right place at the exact right time. Also, how when Rose and Spears are walking, it's like they've been walking for days without food or water, completely exhausted and completely dehydrated. They can barely stand up, but then are instantly ready for combat and are running and jogging and ready to just take on 2 zombies. So it's just a lot of, shaky writing. Dislike number 2, the editing gets really jacked up towards the end. Throughout the show, these title scenes pop up to kind of give you context of what the next segment is going to be like. They kind of act like chapters in a book. They just give you the title to the next segment. And it's okay in the beginning. In fact, it's actually kind of cool in the beginning. But as the show goes on, they actually get worse. They'll title something, you'll watch a 6-minute segment, then you'll get a new title screen, but it will literally just pick up right where it left off. Or you'll get a title screen, you'll get a title, like one of the titles says dog, and you get like a 5 or 6 minute segment, and at the end of the segment, there's just a dog that runs down the street, and it really doesn't mean anything. Like, the dog in that scene really doesn't have anything to do with anything. So honestly, it was just kind of 50-50 if the title screen was going to be important or accurate or not. Dislike number 3, the overall story arc, or the natural story progression rather, seems to be kind of unnecessary. They just create all these extra unnecessary side plots. From the first episode, everyone is trying to get from where they are to the stadium because that's where it's safe. But the filmmakers add in these terribly unexplained side plots that are they're completely useless to the story. I've got no idea why they're in there. One of the big ones is you have this faction of kids at a local school. Really? Come on, writers. In a zombie apocalypse, in 48 hours, a large group of teens or younger have taken refuge in a local school. They've set booby traps, they've set regular traps, they've stockpiled food, they've stockpiled an armory, and they've actually figured out how to survive comfortably in a zombie apocalypse. They're kids, they're teenagers at most. That's a massive stretch in my opinion. Then you have the side plot of that truck following Manny and Son, and they create this whole narrative about the truck is just following them to get gas, even though there's hundreds of cars parked everywhere. They create this whole narrative and it ends up being completely pointless and useless for the story. And then we get to episode 6, which is actually the best episode in the whole show, but it still has no reason for being in the show. They came up with a plan to get into this compound type thing, which it's like part of a meth lab or part rave, part homeless shelter. And nobody here seems to care at all about the zombie apocalypse. Everyone's just cool with partying until they die, I guess. The plan to steal the weapons I thought was cool, and that vantage point style of directing I thought was pretty good too. But as far as the plot is concerned, it's actually useless to the overall story. I'm not sure how any of this came to be, how anyone knew about it, how they developed their plan, how they knew guns were there. There's literally no explanation other than the fact that they needed guns, and so they had to create some sort of side plot to how they got them. And they did do a good job of executing this idea. It's just the idea itself doesn't make any sense. Anyway, my overall thoughts are that I still kind of really enjoyed watching it, even though I don't think it was put together very well. So if you're into zombies, then I think you'll like it, even though it needs a lot of work. Check it out, then come back here and let me know what you think. If you aren't into zombies, then don't watch this because you're probably gonna think it's really dumb. Like worse than Land of the Dead dumb. Movie watcher question. What is your favorite zombie movie or zombie TV show and why? I'll give you my answer in the comment section down below. Okay, movie watchers, here's the breakdown. I'm giving the writing a 4 out of 10. Some aspects of it are pretty good, but overall, I think the writing is actually just a mess. The acting is getting a 6 out of 10. They do get a little bit of a break because of the really long scenes and the difficult conditions in which they have to execute these scenes in. But there are several moments several moments where the performances aren't good. The cinematography gets a 7 out of 10 because I do rather enjoy this style of camera work, and I think it's a perfect fit for this kind of story. I'm giving the directing a 3 out of 10. I feel like there was no vision with this story. The first half of the season felt like it was doing nothing. The editing is pretty bad, actually. I didn't think the editing was that good. The side plots, I think, are pointless and irrelevant. Some episodes are 45 minutes, some are only 30 minutes. Did they run out of content, or did they just not have a good plan in place when filming to begin with? So the directing, I think, was kind of a disaster. Overall, Black Summer gets a 5 out of 10 from me. I think that's being generous, actually, because I think it deserves less, even though I didn't hate it. Thank you for watching. If you like this review, please like, share, and subscribe. I've got more reviews and discussions coming your way, so check back soon for those, and I'll see you on the next one.